And we are live. It is Monday, April 14th, and it is official, folks. Churros is back for all of y'alls. So sit down, relax, grab a snack, a little drink. Why not? It's Monday. The week has only just started, and Churros is back for all of you to enjoy. Lap it up, folks. It's the quarterfinals, leg two coming up in the Champions League. We got a lot to get through. Let's go, Kia. Welcome, everybody, to the show. As you can see, hey, Churros is back. It's rebranded. We got a new look and feel, and this is only just the start. Of course, all of you that are already following us on patreon.com/churros tacticas, you guys know what is going on. You guys know what has been going on on the down low, behind the scenes. For all of you, though, joining us here on YouTube, welcome. I know you've missed us. Fear not. We are back. And listen, KiYAN, we're at the cusp of crunch time, son. Tomorrow, it is first Barca's turn to play. I said the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinals, the away leg in Barca's case over at the Signo Iduna Park against Dortmund. Of course, Barca walking in that one with a 4-goal cushion, a nice little advantage to meet your opponents at their ground with. Take nothing away from Signo Iduna Park. I do expect a whole bunch of feistiness and God knows what kind of drama, but I do think that the vast majority of the eyes will be set on Wednesday's clash. In your case, KiYAN, back at home at the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu. Can you still hear me? Yes.
Loud and clear.
The audio is dropped away from my mic headphones, so I'm just going to keep going. At the Santiago Bernabeu, where we expect spirits to be called upon, and of course, drama to take place over there. KiYAN, I'm going to hand over the word to you. I'm going to figure out what the hell just happened to my headphones, make sure technically everything is safe and sound. But how you feeling, my friend? I know the mood is somewhat pessimistic on your end. Not that you got really anything good to take away from over the weekend, besides the fact that you picked up 3 points to still remain in the title race.
Well, the first thing I'll say is that I feel really bad for the people who are not patrons, because on Friday we recorded kind of our relaunch for our members, and we did like months of catching up because Diego and I haven't recorded the Churros podcast for months, and that's because Diego was in the process of leaving Barca TV, and now he's a free man. He no longer works for Barca, so he's now unchained. He doesn't have to be politically correct. He can criticize Barca all he wants. We're going to see a ton of unbiased takes now, and we did the kind of like a relaunch episode on Friday for our members over on patreon.com/churrositacticas, and I feel like that was the most authentic kind of like catch-up session. So you already know my thoughts if you listen to that podcast, and obviously, Diego, you know. But in terms of pessimism and all that stuff, I'm still leaning on the pessimism side. I will not back down from my prediction from before the season, which is Real Madrid will win the Champions League. I cannot back down from that because that's a cowardly thing to do. Even if it's 1900 to 0 in the 99th minute in the second leg, I still have to keep my prediction. I'll be wrong about it, but I have to keep my prediction because that's the way it works. Diego, go just...
I can't hear anything. I cannot hear anything.
Diego, for the love of God, just go unplug your headphones. I'll send you a
What is going on? What the fuck?
He has no idea we can hear him. What the fuck? I'm just telling him to do the most logical thing, which is just restart everything and come back. So, yeah, you guys know my take. And we just did an entire podcast with the Arsenal Vision guys. And I've been very consistent the last few weeks, despite me keeping my prediction that Real Madrid will win the Champions League. The more this goes on, the more pessimistic I obviously get. And now we're to the point where a lot of my, hope in the past couple months has always banked on the idea that let's just keep advancing. Let's just keep ourselves in the title race. Let's just keep ourselves in the Champions League race. Buy ourselves time. Figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out. Well, the thing is, it's April 14th. And if we haven't figured it out by now, I don't think we'll figure it out because even the bad Real Madrid teams that won the Champions League in previous years, by March, April, they figured it out. This is too late. I don't think any team has been this bad into the season for this long and have figured it out at the end. It's just not going to happen. Diego, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't catch wind of that. If you want to give me a quick summary in terms of whether you're feeling optimistic or not, what is the sense?
No, the 10-second version is if we haven't figured it out by April 14th, we're not figuring it out.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, I guess that's understandable. It's of course also the reality that of the situation remains the fact that and I wasn't aware of this. This is something that you'll be aware of though, but that Real Madrid right now in the Champions League is the team that has conceded the most amount of chances. So they have been on the receiving end of the most amount of chances of their opponents. So you're kind of like, you look at the stats, those kind of statistics, but you also take into account the individually the caliber of players that they have, and you're like, okay, is it gonna be a situation where you're faced with a Courtois that is literally going to stop anything that is going to be blasted upon his goal in between the three sticks? Maybe. We've seen that before. Is it going to be a situation where an Mbappe and a Vini all of a sudden do start connecting and putting chances into the back of the net? I say in the case of Mbappe, he's had a decent season, a good season, I should say, individually in terms of numbers, but a Vini that has certainly not been the same one that we have seen last season, but that can turn it up at any given moment, like we saw him do in the Champions League crunch phase last season. Rodrigo, más de lo mismo, more of the same. Rodrigo that put in headers, for crying out loud, to put Madrid over the hump. And again, I have to say maybe. So does it come down then to an Arsenal that has bottled it? This is something that I mentioned in the spaces as well. Barca has certainly gotten the better of an Arsenal over the course of the years and have sort of shown to be a team that are mentally frail, fragile in when pushed up against the ropes in the latter stages of the European competition or domestic for that matter, because when was the last time that they even won the Premier League? Maybe, so it's like I start doing the math and I'm like, there's a lot of maybes here. A lot of maybes that even, and then the fourth factor, you talk about Arsenal, the fact that they're inexperienced being in this position, as good as they are, and how well coached they are through Mikel Arteta, of course, that has got this team playing, just executing very good football. Add to that then the mystique of Bernabeu, where Morientes himself said, that for me has been on occasion the only explanation as to how I have seen this team overcome hurdles and climb mountains higher than the Himalayas. I'm like, that's a lot of maybes. So again, I'm sticking to my guns. I do believe that at the very least, KiYAN, Madrid will find itself in a position where there will be one up a goal to nil. I do expect them to be in an advantageous position in the home leg where they have a goal advantage, a second goal at the end of the second half or the beginning of the, at the end of the first half or the beginning of the second half might drop. And then it's inshallah, mate. Then it's like, you just don't know. You just don't know. The Bernabeu will become a pressure cooker. The players, Arsenal players, will be like, holy shit, we're going to be one of those fucking teams. It's like getting posterized by Michael fucking Jordan. It's like, it can happen. Like, I mean, defenders have, which defender has escaped getting posterized by Michael Jordan? It's kind of like, and not to compare Real Madrid to Michael Jordan. Hold on. Hey. And I've walked myself into this one. But it is a little bit like that. We've seen this with other teams, with City, PSG, Chelsea. and then some. Where Arsenal is kind of like I could see it happen, dude.
Listen, Diego, I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay.
Go on.
It's a recurring story that has happened every week in the 2024-2025 season. Real Madrid plays shit football. They win, draw, or lose. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
football is shit.
Hmm.
The next day, we talk ourselves into, oh, this team will figure it out. And then the further we get removed from that loss or that bad performance, the more delusion kicks in. And then a week passes, and then everyone gets excited because it's match day. The next game has arrived. Hype, hype, hype. Watching social media reels and clips, and then shit football. And then we win, draw, or lose. And then the next day, we'll figure it out. We get every day farther removed from that game until day 7. It's match day. We're back, baby. Shit football.
Hmm.
This story has been recurring for every week this season. And
Yeah.
now we finished the Arsenal first leg. The whole consensus was the tie was over. Now we get the further remove we get from that day, all these social media clips that I've been sharing with you on Instagram because they're hilarious, of all the black magic that's going to happen, of all, and now the ultras are going to give them hell. Historic reception for the team bus, flares everywhere,
Yeah.
Juanito spirit, and then the game is going to start. Saka's going to score a counterattack in minute 6, and then it's going to go. Wah, wah, wah. Handkerchiefs will be up at halftime. Florentino dimisión. Fast forward 12 days from now. Barca 6, Real Madrid 0. Copa del Rey.
I like this. I like this version of KiYAN very much.
You can tell I don't work for Real Madrid TV, that's for sure. So this Real Madrid has shown us nothing to give us hope, nothing.
But what has the Madrid shown you in previous years, where quite frankly the football under Ancelotti has never been dazzling football. It's never been football really that people would write home about. Coaches would take their notebooks out and say, okay, wow, it's with all the praise that has rightfully been thrown upon or casted upon Ancelotti for being a very successful manager. I think in his most recent years, in his second stint with Madrid, it hasn't been the tactics, the genius of an Ancelotti that has brought Madrid not just across the finish line, but given the Italian manager a very successful stint. Why this time around? Is it like, I mean, is it just because you've run out of 4-leaf clovers? Is it like, because
No, because in those years we have shown stuff that we haven't shown this year. So
so
like
why
yeah,
is it different with primarily the same group of players? Why is it so different this time around?
I think if you go through it, I think we played good football in 2014 and 2015. Then obviously he's sacked. He comes back in 2021. Um, in the 2021-2022 season, despite us not playing good football, we had good moments in football. We were great at
Mm.
Stamford Bridge away from home. We were great in the last 20 minutes against Manchester City plus extra time. We were great. And Liverpool, we were just, I guess, we were outplayed, but we were solid enough. Last season, we had moments of good football. We had a stretch from like November to January where we played really good football. We played well against Bayern over 2 legs. And we had those moments. This season, we haven't had any of those. And you ask what's different. Well, I think one thing that's different is that Vinny has regressed. And we have this whole thing where the the two front two don't defend, and they're not scoring enough goals to make up for it. And you also, what's different, obviously, the big one is Cruz. And another big thing I would say is that, like, the lack of leadership. I told you this on Friday, the fact that we don't have Benzi to get, these guys to get their shit together and attack, maybe convince them that, hey, you need to buy in, we need more effort off the ball. And obviously a big leader in Cruz, he's off too. And so there are enough significant changes, I think. I'm
Don't
basically
you think that goes hand in hand, though, Kiyan? Like, don't you think that leaders, like even if a Ramos was amongst this team, don't you think that leaders are kind of born in moments where a team rallies together, when the results are going their way, when there is a positive dynamic and a good
yeah,
energy atmosphere? You know
coach
what I
doesn't
mean? So
exist now.
my point being is you could put, what's a great leader? Again, well, a Ramos in the history, or a Hierro or whoever in this team, and he would feel kind of impotent in this situation because it's just not clicking in that regard.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's also true that maybe no one player would walk in tomorrow and save the team.
Hmm.
Because this is kind of stuff that has been festering for quite a bit,
Yeah.
And so now it's too late to bring in a leader to solve it for Wednesday, If there was better energy and better leadership and the vibes were better maybe from the beginning, and you kind of worked your way into something and people grew into their roles, and maybe we were healthier, or maybe if players were performing better, if Ancelotti had solutions to some of the stuff that was happening, then you can maybe talk yourself into it. But like, I'm wearing the great man himself, Moji Mates, the number
I was
9.
just thinking that.
Oh wow, yeah, no one
Yeah,
can see our shirts. This is true Churros y Tacticas moment right here. The goat and the number 2, they're both here.
that's right. Messi and the number 2, the fake Ronaldo. Hey, moji-mates.com. Big shout out. But
Um, yeah, look,
yeah.
if Cristiano came in tomorrow,
Mm.
if like the peak Cristiano version came in, maybe he drops a hat trick. I don't know. But like, this is the thing. You got to shout out. I mentioned this on the Arsenal Vision podcast I was recording just before I recorded with you. Rio Ferdinand said something interesting, where he said,
Rio Ferdinand was there.
yeah, Rio Ferdinand was not on our podcast. He had a
Oh,
clip where he was talking, and
Jesus.
I was like, yeah, that's true. He said something to the effect of like, Real Madrid don't need just 3, because Arsenal, you have to put Arsenal down for a goal,
Yeah.
and so
Mm.
really you need at least 4.
Mm.
It's not just 3 goals. It's not like us. I think people basically are banking on 1 goal in the first 10 minutes, a second goal before halftime, and then a third in the second half. Like, and then you just coast through it into extra time. Whereas, like, just like no possibility that Arsenal, one of the best sides in Europe, could possibly score against you after dominating you and scoring 3 past you in the first leg. Like, you have to
Mm.
put them down for a goal. You have to.
Mm. Mm.
So you need
Mm.
more than 3 goals. 3 will take it into extra time if you shut them out, which is a difficult task, man. It's a difficult task, logically speaking, of a team that hasn't conceded 3 goals since December of 2023.
Right. Yeah. And I guess on top of that, I mean, Madrid's defensive frailty is the concern there. That's why you're highlighting the fact that Arsenal, because again, I was going back in preparation of this podcast, sort of, reviewing the highlights and going back over that initial leg at the Emirates. And I'm like, if it weren't for the 2 free kicks, obviously brilliant free kicks. I mean, stunning ones. It was, Juninho Rice at his best. Um, but interestingly enough, Arteta highlighted in the post-match press conference that they hadn't scored from a free kick position in like over 3 years. I think it was something
A
crazy
direct
like
free
that.
kick,
So,
yeah.
right, a direct free kick, correct.
Even Rice himself, have you seen the clips of like he's taken 15 free kicks,
Mm,
13 of them he's missed. The 2 free
mm.
kicks he scored from were against Real Madrid. And now he's like, there's like clips of him training this week after the Real Madrid game, and all of his free kicks are like in the stands. So just our luck, man.
Just your
But
luck, but then but that's what I mean, though. It's like again the finer detail. I mean, you could argue that
no,
maybe
even if
Madrid
you
shouldn't
take
even
those two, even
Madrid
if
shouldn't have been in the position that they are because it what
no,
it came down to
I
the
disagree.
slightest of double touches. No, 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 you're not listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the double touch of Julian Alvarez, where you're like, okay, that was the difference on that day that allowed Madrid to advance
Sure. I mean,
because
we were
what
shit against Atletico too. Like,
right.
I but I no, I thought you were gonna say because like I'll make another point. Even without Declan Rice's two free kicks, we deserve to lose that 3-0 anyway.
Mm,
And but you asked, I can't believe I forgot to say this because you asked earlier, what's the difference? The big one is our fullback situation. Is I'd have to go through it and really, really fact check it and see if this is true. But I think this might be the worst fullback situation in Real Madrid history, what it is right now. And last year we had Danny Carvajal, who was a leader and playing at an elite level, and Mendy, who wasn't good last season up until the knockout phases of the Champions League. He played well, and so we don't have Mendy right now. Carvajal, obviously, we don't have, and it's like whether it's Alaba or Fran Garcia or Camavinga right now, that left back
mm,
position is getting cooked. And
mm,
Arsenal, dynamic, young, athletic fullbacks who can get up the field, who can blitz past you, who can run back in transition. It's like our weakest point is a place where they're just murdering us. And even if we get past this stage, now our fullbacks will have to face Dembele and Barcola, Kvaratskhelia. If we get past them, you got Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. It's just like, what are we really doing here? We're basically delaying the inevitable anyway. So I'm sorry for being so pessimistic, but I honestly don't think there are many. There probably a small 1% chance, percentage of Madridistas who would even take issue with me just laying out the reality here. I think we all understand what the situation is. We're not. I think there's very little delusion left, and yeah. Look, if the second leg happens, it's just basically just going to be our first game of the season where we would prove something. But
mm. Yeah, I get it. Look, I mean, it's but now it make you make it sound like it's a mix of things. It's bad team planning or management. It's not getting
everything. It
anybody
is
in.
though. I think it is
It's
a
a
mix of things.
mhm.
Do you not?
Mm. Yeah, of course. A wise man once said the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and I have since been repeating that in any given situation. But sure, of course, I don't think you can point the finger at one factor, one person, and say it's this
No,
person's
I don't
fault.
think so. No.
Um, I do think it's interesting and noteworthy of studying though the and before we even talk about demise, let's also remember that Madrid is still in the running for the three trophies, and nothing is lost just yet. Hopefully, in a month's time, we can talk about trophies lost, but I don't think that's the case now. And again, history, especially recent history, has shown me not to trust it until the fat lady sings or the referee blows the whistle, because there's always a chance. And I think it was Gary Lineker that said that football is a game played by 11 against 11. In the end, the Germans win. Well, my history is Madrid win and the Germans, so it's a double whammy in my case. But um, I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it because I don't. Madrid football wise hasn't impressed me neither in prior seasons where they have ended up winning it. I've seen a Madrid with Anelka that came from Arsenal, that all of a sudden did absolutely nothing for an entire season for Madrid. Then all of a sudden he faces
And
Bayern and
woke
he
up
becomes a
like the
reincarnation.
Undertaker. He's like just
Like where did he
rising
come?
from his slumber.
Where did he come from? Where did he come from there? It's like I've seen this, and I just don't trust it, and I'm not gonna fall for it. So I will remain skeptical until the very bitter end. Um, and I'm just surprised that again, Madridistas are so doom and gloom. And I get what I do get, and this is something that I have reiterated on this podcast as well. I do get that Madridistas demand better and more domination over their opponents, not always having to rely on the mythical epic comebacks as quote unquote cool or great for storytelling. Those kinds of wins are it's like I imagine a player like Mbappe coming to Madrid being like, why is this old man screaming at me, telling me to drop back deep and defend? in my own half for the entirety of this match when we
What?
can, when we are much better than that. Like I understand why players would be frustrated and demand a more dominant, brave, offensive style of football as to what compared to what Ancelotti has been showing.
For those listening on Spotify, I'm laughing for a reason. But I think I want to make another point about this that I think is misconception. So you talked earlier about the Arsenal choking, and I think we almost have to. I'm not sure if like we can lump Arsenal with choking anymore. It almost seems like that was a different era. This is a new cycle. When was the last time Arsenal like truly choked? Like I know they choked like Leeds in the Premier League, but like at a European stage when they were this good,
Mm.
I feel like this is almost just a new cycle, a new era that
Mhm.
almost doesn't deserve to get the choking moniker labeled to them. Much like why I feel like this season for Real Madrid is not like previous seasons and is almost a different era and doesn't hasn't inherited the remontada DNA of the past, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I think this season is a bit of a write-off for Real Madrid fans. Regroup, strengthen the squad,
One
bring in
can.
Xabi Alonso, and just press reset and run it back next year with largely the same squad but with new ideas.
I told you Klopp is coming.
Yeah, well, you're still the only person I've seen talk about Klopp. Just FYI, I don't
It'll
know
be
what.
funny if it actually comes true. I don't know. I say that a quote unquote reliable source told me, and I'm going to give this person the credit that I think he deserves. But we'll see. It's a toss up between either or. I think the both are very good managers, and then I'm fearful, somewhat. Yeah, to what they can do with such a talented group of players. But look, I'm pretty sure you're tired of beating this dead horse. You must have, I don't know how many pods you've been doing. But
Yeah.
before we move on, I'm curious, how were the Arsenal fans like on the pod? Were they staying humble? Were they puffing their chests out? What was it? What how are they moving
So
into this?
I've seen a lot of Madridistas complain about Arsenal fans and saying like they haven't won shit and they're so loud. Imagine if they start getting good, or they'll be insufferable. I think that's probably true with every fan base. I will say about the Arsenal Vision fans, they seem to be like highly respectable people. They came over to the stream. They're kind of like the managing Madrid of Arsenal, but they're even
Right.
bigger. So like, is it because he went live on his channel as well, and all of a sudden it jumped to like 2,500 viewers just like on the live stream. It was like whoa. So like the overwhelming majority were Arsenal fans, and they were pretty respectful. I like it.
Yeah.
I have no complaints.
That makes sense. But because I say that as well, because I remember in the warm up or in like when the Champions League anthem was playing and everything, they had what did they have? They had like similar to what Atletico had. Atletico had something with Rodri winning the Balón de Oro. No, sorry, this was City, and Arsenal had Henri, something with Henri celebrating his goals in the Bernabeu. Did you not see that? You know what I'm referring to, right? This
No.
how in the pregame before the City Madrid game, the fans had a como una muralla, like a mural or a pancarta, like a
Tifo?
big poster of Rodri winning the Balón de Oro. It was like "Cry now or cry
Oh,
forever."
right. In the first leg.
Well,
Yeah.
in the first leg, yeah, Arsenal
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
the same. They had Henri winning or celebrating a goal in the Bernabeu in the Champions League. Did you not see that?
I
Well, you
was
were
there and
there,
I
right?
didn't see it. I was there and I didn't see it.
Well,
Unless
there
it
was
was like
an
just a fan holding up a poster or something.
no, no, no. There was something bigger than that. It was a pancarta.
Maybe it was the
Um,
section above my head, which is the only section I can't see. I don't know.
okay. Well, that I find that telling. I find it interesting, and
Well,
um,
all this stuff is fair game, man. Like everyone talks shit. Everybody has to be willing to receive shit too, dish it out and receive it, and that's fair.
mhm.
Sometimes like will come back to bite you in the ass. Sometimes you're good enough to talk your shit and get away with it. This
Mm.
stuff doesn't bother me. Like, but like
No, no,
it,
I'm not saying it. No, no, I'm not saying it
uh,
like did it bother you. What I'm saying is I was surprised that Arsenal fans were so
loud.
yeah, loud. It's like,
Yeah,
dude, just
right.
win, go to the semis, and then like talk your shit, have your day in the sun. But
Yeah,
I felt it was this is like premature, provoking, or whatever it was. Like, yeah,
yeah. I would say that that's probably true. I mean, I think, but isn't I don't know. I feel like every fan base has that in them. Like it's like as soon as they get good, they just get super loud. I mean, tell me this is not Barcelona for the past 5 years. All these our streams now are just basically 50% Barca fans. I'm like, so where were you guys
no,
last year? Like, come, I'm not
no.
exaggerating. Obviously, it's not
Uh,
50%, but like, there's just so many Kool-Aids. I'm like, so where did you like? We would have loved to have you around like last year, guys. Where were you guys? Didn't exist. Just came out of nowhere. But
Come out of the closet, boys. Boys and
they're out.
girls, join us
They're
here
out.
on Churros.
You,
Hey, listen, I was just having a quick look over our comments. Something I wouldn't do, but I was curious to see if we're getting any feedback on our new look. Claude and somebody else said, "Hey, I haven't been checking in on Churros for a while, but I low key miss the old layout." And Claude as well saying, "Yeah, this layover ain't all that." I kind of love this. I thought this we were getting
I
we
know.
would
I
get
do
mad
think it
love.
needs to be like reframed a little bit. So and like
Right.
the and like your name is covered. So it needs to be cleaner. We can work on that. This was
We're
actually
gonna work on it.
we literally came up with this before we hit record. Like it was not a planned thing. Like so I think it'll get cleaned up a little bit.
We're gonna keep cleaning it. We're gonna keep cleaning things up. But so listen, why don't we talk a little bit about Barca's battle in Germany? I
Yeah. Yes. What are the chances, Diego, of Dortmund coming back? Give us the Kool-Aid. Give us some Kool-Aid to drink.
Well, I mean, first of all, Dortmund at home are a juggernaut. They're a powerhouse. It's an absolute fortress, the Signal Iduna Park. That goes without saying. I don't know if it is still the case, but when Barca, when we managed to beat them in the 3-2 thriller, mind you, a late goal from Ferran Torres handed the Germans their first home defeat also in like years. So I don't know if that is still the case, meaning that I don't know if teams since the little hiccup that they suffered against Barca have then gone back to winning ways at home for all of their games, but they have an incredible record at home. And I imagine for sure it's going to be a pressure cooker if Barca come out and hand
You can't even keep a
a
straight
big
face, do
knockout
you,
blow.
with all this
Sorry?
bullshit you're saying? You can't even
No,
keep a straight
listen.
face.
No,
"Oh,
that's not
Dortmund
true.
are a fortress of
No, no,
home."
no, no, no. Look,
Oh,
we're gonna be without Alejandro Balde. Big news for over the weekend.
oh.
Our left back. You were just talking about your wing backs being
Dude,
injured.
you're
Our
up
left back.
4-0. We could put me and you out there and Barca would still not be eliminated.
That is not true. That is well,
Valde,
maybe true.
Diego, KiYAN, Barca in 5.
Um, we will see, man. We will have to see. Of course, Dani Olmo is out as well. He will maybe. Well, he is back with the team. He's gotten the medical green light, but Hansi Flick was not. Didn't sound super convinced that he is 100% match fit. But yeah, my big concern is the fact that Balde will be out for a month. So even the semifinals, hypothetical semifinals, will be without Alejandro Balde and a banged up Dani Olmo. We'll have to wait and see who we will face. I'm hoping that it's going to be a Bayern. Again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I want to focus on Dortmund here, but I do think that it is not
Inter's the
good
big one.
news. Yeah, yeah.
Forget
Inter's the
about
big one.
Dortmund.
Yeah.
Just forget about Dortmund. Dortmund is just that's a friendly tomorrow. But Inter's the big one for you guys.
So you are convinced that Inter will beat Bayern, then, eh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I had Inter going to the final even from the beginning.
Okay.
Even when we had the draw and we saw the brackets, I had Inter on that side.
Okay.
Still have it, by the way. That's my prediction still, if anyone cares. It's Real Madrid will beat Inter in the final.
Madrid Inter.
Mhm.
What are you saying? That goes against everything you've just been spewing.
Yeah, because oh yeah, you didn't have your headphones weren't working. What I said was when your headphones aren't working, what I said was that I can't back down from my prediction of Real Madrid winning the Champions League because they're down 3-0 because that would be a cowardly thing to do. So even if we're down 100-0 on aggregate in the 90th
Mm,
minute, I still have to keep my prediction until it's over. Capiche? So I'm not optimistic, but it's still my prediction. But
mm,
more importantly, on that side of the bracket, I think Inter. Like if I think it'll be between obviously Barca and Inter. I think for that side of the bracket. So Inter have it half done. Barca already have it done. They're into the semifinals, and I think Inter have the potential to give Barca some problems. Also, just as a side note, I have a question for you. What is your genuine, I guess, read on Barca's performances over the past month or so? Would you like? I'm talking like going back to the draw against Betis, the win over Atletico at the Metropolitano, the game against Leganes away from home. Like overall, like are you? Like, did you like those performances?
mhm. Well, look, I'll say that the game against Leganes, it was one of those games. I mean, obviously, we won thanks to an own goal. It was definitely not a game that you take out much positive, other than the fact that we got 3 points against a team that is fighting for survival relegation. It was a god awful game to watch, not just because I think the Barca players didn't play to their maximum capability, but just the dark arts that were being applied by the players and coach on Leganes' side was frustrating to see, to say the least. It was not a game that was where they were interested in even playing the game of football. It was just about, in their case, grinding out a result. And like fair play to them. Again, they're a team that are in dire need of points and trying to survive to stay in the first division. But you mentioned Betis and Atletico in the Copa Semi. I think you're referring to, or the 4-2 in the league, or
No, the league, the one, whichever one was like 1-1. That was league, right?
no. So the league was the 4-2 remontada at the Wanda when they were up 2-0.
I don't think so.
Um, and then there was the 1-0 in
1-1,
the
wasn't it?
The 1-1 was in December. Sorry, no, that was 1-0 for Atletico. Then there was the 4-4. So there's the 1-0 for Atletico in the Olympic Stadium in the US Compines in the first half of the season. Then there's the 4-4 in the first leg of the semifinal of the cup. Then there was the 4-2 in the league. The
Sorry, I'm talking about the Betis game.
Betis was 1-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that one, I mean, look, you're playing against a side that, along with Barca, are so far the best side in the best Spanish team of the year in La Liga. Besides Betis and Barca, there's no other team that have been producing such good football. So the fact that it was a game where we were coming off of the semifinal against Atletico and we were heading into the Dortmund Champions League quarterfinal, it was kind of like a game where, okay, we knew that Madrid had dropped points. They just lost. You just lost against Valencia. How are we going to square up against face a side that is playing for European spots and that was coming into that game without an Isco? I guess what I'm trying to say is we grinded out that result and we did what we had to do. It wasn't pretty, and it can't be every game. And we are already the team that scores the most goals. Steal the ball the most. I mean, all the statistics now I don't have, but they're very favorable for this Hansi Flick's Barca side and flattering as well when you compare them to the other informed teams in and around Europe and the domestic league. And I think it's unfair for us to expect that it was going to be like this every single game, especially after the last international break where, we had to play that game also against Osasuna. It was all very, we had to make up that game because of the passing of the team doctor. It's a lot of games, important games coming to you thick and fast. And the fact that not every game is a 4-0, 3-0, Hansi, Pedri, Lamine masterclass, Rafinha masterclass, like that's okay for me. I was happy with a point against Betis. I figured a point is a point. We're able to increase the gap instead of 3 to 4 with second in the league, Real Madrid. And against Dortmund, we saw the side again firing from all cylinders and playing very good football. So uh, let's take it one game at a time and be realistic as well, and just know that these players are human. They need their rest. They're probably getting not enough of it. um, and the same goes for Real Madrid, for that matter. Like, these players have been playing an immense amount of games. You guys have been playing the latter stages of the competitions in the Champions League and stuff, and for league titles for back-to-back seasons now. And and the same goes for Barca, all these big teams that compete to win all the trophies. So I see what you're saying. Has there been a drop off? The fact of the matter is that this is still the only team so far to have been unbeaten for this year. Um, so
Yeah, no,
I'll take it.
all your points are reasonable. I was just kind of curious. I
Mm.
was like wondering if there was a bit of mortality that had crept in some of those games that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we saw it also in November, December, right, Kian? When all of a sudden we went from first to being third and dropped a whole bunch of points. That was, a stark, mm, a big dump, like a stark contrast to the way this team had started the season. So, can that happen again? Obviously, I hope not. Now is when it counts the most. Now is when the titles are won or lost. But you know, yeah, I trust in. I guess I have to say, like, I trust in these players themselves, the staff as well, to have managed their condition, their own condition, the minutes. Hansi doesn't tire saying just how professional, how happy he is with all the players, of what he gets from them, not just in the games, but in every single day in the training as well, and how professional they are. I mean, for all the praise that we put upon the younger stars of this team, the Lamines, etc., all these 18 and early 20-year-olds or 17-year-olds in the case of Lamine, the fact that Inigo Martinez and a Robert Lewandowski, for that matter, are still producing very solid football statistically. In the case of Robert Lewandowski, having one of his best seasons, still personal best, and Inigo Martinez being just excellent, stellar in defense, also says a lot from how, I guess, these players themselves prepare and approach every single match. And they know that they have everything to prove. And again, that is in stark contrast to Madrid as well. Coming off of winning Champions League and Liga, you get the belly full syndrome. Who was it? I think it was Phil Jackson that said that. Was it Phil Jackson or Jordan? I don't know who said it, but it's easier to become champion than to remain champion. It's once you have conquered the mountain, it's staying on the mountain that is actually then the harder part. So they say. I mean, I'm not a pro athlete, but so they say, as opposed to those that are coming under, from under, still climbing that mountain, and with the hunger to conquer that. I guess that motivator drives a player to give that little extra, a little 110%, as opposed to just giving 100 or 90.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
this is, I think, part of it too. And there's all this talk about, experience and all this stuff with Arsenal too, when whether it's Barca or Arsenal, and how far some of these guys have gotten into these competitions. I mean, sometimes hunger trumps experience. It's not always like this. Sometimes we've seen plenty of examples of this in sport, where just there's a tide that shifts. There's a passing of the torch. And I don't think, like in a Real Madrid's case in particular, it's a passing of the torch, but I do think it's like you know, it's kind of, you know what, Diego, it's kind of the classic Ancelotti second season. Every second season sucks.
Yeah, you said that.
We had City 4-0 at the Etihad, right?
Mm.
We do need adjustments, and in Barca's case, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I don't think their lack of experience will hurt them in this case. I really don't. Um, I gotta go.
Me too, buddy.
Were we back Thursday or Friday?
Thursday.
Thursday, over on patreon.com/churros y tácticas. And we got a lot of content coming your way. This is a
Oh
great
yeah.
really, Diego and I are both super excited about this. This is going to be, guns blazing now as we this is basically the beginning. This is the beginning of something special. All right, Diego, it was a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, guys, live. Great catching up. See you over on patreon.com/churros y tácticas. Peace out.
See you guys.